General Hospital spoilers for the upcoming week, from March 31st to April 4th. Tease that the disaster Kristina causes is not just a serious car accident, it's a deep crack that's tearing apart her own soul and the connections between many characters in Port Charles. In a moment of anger and long-suppressed emotions, Kristina makes a fatal mistake. She cuts the brake line on Ava's car, hoping to teach the woman a painful lesson. It wasn't a well-thought-out plan, but an impulsive, reckless act from a young person carrying too much unresolved pain. But when fate cruelly intervenes, Rick and Liz, two completely innocent people, are the ones who end up using the car, turning the situation into an irreparable tragedy. The car, losing its brakes, careens out of control. And the accident results in Rick being severely injured, while Liz, the strong, dedicated woman, does not survive. Liz's death not only shocks the hospital but also plunges the Port Charles community into mourning. She was a devoted nurse, a mother who lived for her children, and a character who had long been part of many lives. Now, all of that is erased by one thoughtless act from Kristina, something she cannot forgive herself for. Kristina is haunted by what she has caused. Dreams of the accident, Rick's screams, Liz's last glance, all become a painful loop that clings to her every hour, every minute. She turns to Lucky, trembling and choking back tears, confessing everything as if it were a confession. Lucky is placed in an unwanted position. He must decide whether to protect Kristina, someone who may still be redeemable, or to reveal the truth and send her into the legal system. On one side, there's justice for Liz, on the other, there's the brutal torment Kristina is suffering. No matter what decision is made, one thing is clear: no one can go back to the way things were. More and more signs of Kristina's guilt and loss of control become apparent. She avoids all eye contact, refuses to meet Ava, doesn't dare come near the hospital, and lives in constant fear of being discovered. But what she fears most is not punishment, it's that Liz is dead, and nothing can change that. She once believed she had a reason to be angry, to seek revenge, but now, all that remains is burning regret and a feeling of being trapped in a never-ending cycle. Meanwhile, Ava senses that something is wrong and begins investigating. If she uncovers the truth, Kristina will not only have to face Ava, but Sonny will also be dragged into it. The reputation, power, and fragile balance within the Corinthos family will be torn apart. Kristina's petty revenge story is now becoming a ticking time bomb, capable of shattering her entire family and turning the public against them. Ava will never pass up the chance to use the truth as leverage to push Sonny and Kristina into a vulnerable position, and when that happens, Port Charles will never be the same. But it doesn't stop there. Kristina is also beginning to distance herself from herself. The relationships she once cherished, from Sonny, Molly, to even those who saw her as family, are all starting to grow distant. She feels unworthy of forgiveness. She's reaching her psychological limit, where the line between sanity and collapse becomes blurred. And in that moment, if no one pulls Kristina back, she might spiral into self-destruction. Liz's death is not just a loss, it's a wake-up call for all who have ever underestimated the power of anger and believed revenge was a path to healing. Kristina must now face herself. And the only choice left is to confront the truth, step out of the darkness, and find a way to atone, if Port Charles is still willing to give her a second chance. But before that can happen, the undercurrents of truth are still swirling beneath the surface, and no one knows what will happen when they finally break free. Gio is falling into a psychological spiral as signs of his true identity begin to surface. The vague sense of his past, the stories he once thought were just fragmented memories, are now coming together into a haunting picture. He can't explain why he always feels distant from his loved ones, and when secrets about his origins start to leak out, Gio begins to doubt everything that once formed the foundation of his life. Meanwhile, Emma, who has always watched over him and shown him special care, is now beginning to act in an entirely different way. The connection between them, once gentle and full of hope, is now clouded by the reckless and determined actions Emma chooses. She knows more than Gio realizes, and instead of revealing the truth, she quietly plots a plan that could change everything. But Emma's silence and her one-sided decisions are pushing Gio into a state of heightened instability. Each time Emma avoids a question. Each time she goes out with a worried look and rushes back, all of it makes Gio unable to shake the feeling that something important is being hidden from him. Worse. He feels like he's being manipulated by a series of actions he can't control. He starts questioning the truth, his adoptive parents, the distorted memories. And even the real reason Emma has been so involved with him. Emma's invisible pressure, whether to protect him or for some greater purpose, is inadvertently making things worse. Gio is not only hurt by the hidden truth but also by the feeling that even Emma, the one he trusted the most, is no longer someone he can rely on. And in that moment, the issues that once were just undercurrents begin to surge into a storm. The story of Joe's identity, Emma's mysterious actions, and the secrets of the past are all crashing down on them, threatening to destroy everything they've ever tried to build. When all the truth is revealed, will the friendship, or love, between Gio and Emma survive? Or will they become the next victims of the secrets the adults have been hiding for 2 decades? One thing is certain. Port Charles is about to face another crisis, and Gio is right at the center of it. Marco is stepping into a dangerous whirlwind as his true identity, the biological son of Sidwell, is exposed in the secret corridors of Port Charles. No longer a charming, intelligent, and promising lawyer, Marco has now become the center of suspicion, controversy, and obsession surrounding the toxic legacy his father left behind. What makes the situation even worse is that Marco was completely unprepared for this shock and never imagined that the blood running through his veins connects him directly to one of the most hated figures in the city. The story seems to be getting more chaotic by the day. As each day passes, the pieces related to Sidwell and his political, financial, and even medical network in Port Charles become clearer. And as people start seeing Marco's face in hospital hallways, courtrooms, or at charity events, their gaze is no longer one of respect but one of scrutiny and obsession. The strongest psychological shift comes from those who once trusted him, like Lucas, who is trying to move on from old wounds but is once again pulled into a vortex of mistrust. Brad, with his sharp instincts, seems to recognize that Marco is not just someone looking for a peaceful love but also carrying hidden layers of secrets yet to be uncovered. The relationship between the three is no longer a gentle triangle but is becoming a battlefield of morals, identity, and survival. Meanwhile, Jason, Ava, Tracy, and Carly, who all had complicated relationships with Sidwell, are calculating their next moves. Jason suspects that Marco is secretly helping his father regain power by exploiting weaknesses in the judicial and medical systems of Port Charles. Ava, still reeling from recent events, fears that Marco will become a tool for Sidwell's revenge on those who opposed him. Carly, ever sensitive to political schemes, starts gathering files and even considers bringing in Nina or Tracy to launch an anti-Air campaign. Furthermore, Marco's unexpected discovery of confidential documents Sidwell left behind, containing a list of powerful figures who had been manipulated or bought, has made the situation even more dangerous. He now stands between two great forces. One wants him to come forward and stand for justice, while the other is ready to erase him if he betrays his roots. Everything has turned into a prolonged psychological battle. Marco must choose between loyalty to his family or choosing righteousness, accepting the cost, and losing everything. The most heartbreaking part is that Marco is beginning to realize that no matter how hard he tries, he cannot escape his father's shadow. The rumors, the whispers, the leaked pages, all of it is cornering him. And when Emma, who is becoming close to Gio, discovers that Marco once had covert ties to a group of tycoons linked to the mysterious death of a doctor at GH, their relationship also teeters on the brink of breaking. Port Charles is no longer a safe place for Marco. But perhaps, in the chaos, he will be forced to redefine himself, as the heir to darkness or as the one who breaks free from the chains of destiny to stand in the light. The answer will not only determine Marco's fate but also the future of those he once loved, hurt, and promised to protect. Brad is holding an important clue that could change the entire dynamic between Lucas and Marco. After weeks of quietly observing and gathering information, Brad has finally discovered a disturbing detail about Marco's past, a detail connected to secret dealings and a shady association with an organization that once funded Sidwell's underground activities. When Brad brings this news to Lucas, the atmosphere immediately turns tense. Lucas, who has been trying to trust Marco and build a stable relationship after so many breakups, now faces a difficult choice. The truth Brad uncovered is not just a small piece of gossip, it's part of a larger scheme that is reshaping the power structure in Port Charles. Marco doesn't seem as innocent as he has portrayed, and while he may still be a victim drawn into his father's power game, his recent actions show signs of hiding, evading, and even manipulating Lucas's emotions. The deeper Brad digs, the more he uncovers about Marco's presence in secret meetings for a fund run by Sidwell, an organization once accused of money laundering and trafficking classified information. Now, Lucas cannot pretend to be unaware anymore. He is forced to face the reality that the man he's opening up to may not be as pure as he seems. But the hardest part is that Marco still doesn't know Lucas has discovered the truth, and Brad is weighing whether to let Lucas confront Marco himself. Meanwhile, Marco feels mounting pressure as his relationships in Port Charles start to show signs of cracking. He realizes that Brad isn't just an outsider. He's someone who can deeply influence Lucas's thoughts and heart. If Brad decides to expose him, everything could collapse in an instant. The relationship between the three of them is now at a breaking point. Every decision has consequences. And in the background, the forces behind Sidwell may be quietly watching, ready to act if Marco truly betrays his family. What began as a new romance is now turning into a dangerous psychological battle. And just one wrong move could cause everything to fall apart. Sonny's name was once an untouchable symbol in the underworld of Port Charles, a man whose very mention made enemies wary and allies ready to be fiercely loyal. But now, everything is changing. No longer the image of a strong mob boss emerging from the shadows with hard decisions, Sonny is slowly being worn down by time and age. His body no longer holds up like it once did. And his mind, once sharp as a blade, is now surrounded by haunting memories of the past, anxieties about the future, and a host of long-hidden secrets. Recent medical reports about Sonny's cardiovascular condition have thrown his beloved daughter Kristina into a panic, while Sonny has tried to hide any signs of his weakness. Those closest to him have noticed his tired eyes, slow steps, and moments of losing control that he had never shown before. It is Kristina, with her deep family instinct, who is the first to suspect something is wrong. And when the truth is revealed, that he faces a risky surgery and might never wake up, Kristina knows she must act. Meanwhile, Port Charles is shaken by power struggles. Former enemies are stirring, and alliances that once seemed unbreakable are starting to crack. With Sonny preparing for surgery, an undercurrent of uncertainty spreads everywhere. The big question everyone wants to know, if Sonny doesn't make it, who will replace him? Jason, Sonny's loyal brother, is still around. But is he ready to take control while facing ghosts from the past? Kristina is still too young to lead a power structure like the Corinthos family, while Michael, Jocelyn, and even Dex have their own concerns. And then, when rumors of Sonny's death begin to spread throughout the city, unconfirmed, but enough to cause shock, an era suddenly stands on the verge of ending. If Sonny passes away, it will not just be the disappearance of a mob boss, but the end of an entire era. A series of secrets will be uncovered, blood debts will have to be paid. And those who once relied on Sonny's power will face a completely new world, a world with no one to protect them. Kristina will have to choose between holding the family together or watching it collapse before her eyes. Ava, Carly, Jason, Dex, and even figures like Selena Wu, as well as old enemies like Brennan and Sidwell, all will get involved in a power struggle where Sonny's name will only echo in memory. And if Sonny's death is confirmed, Port Charles will never be the same, not just because of the void, but because of the storm of succession that it leaves behind. Trina and Kai are entering an explosive phase in both their personal journey and their relationship as events in Port Charles grow increasingly dangerous and chaotic. Trina, who has always sought justice and righteousness, is now pushed into a world full of secrets, deceits, and underground forces willing to sacrifice anyone to protect their own interests. Kai, who has been a rock for Trina both emotionally and physically, also begins to realize that he can no longer stay on the sidelines. The two of them get caught up in a series of events involving hidden threats, traps set by people they once trusted, and enemies they never saw coming. When Trina discovers that Portia might have been deceived and targeted by mysterious enemies, she can't just sit idly by. At the same time, Kai receives an offer from someone with ties to the WSB, an opportunity to return to the field, but one that involves facing dangerous missions that could completely change his future. The mix of personal feelings, loyalty to family, and duty to justice is pushing Trina and Kai to the edge of an all-out battle. They are not only fighting one enemy, but a network of powerful figures secretly manipulating everything happening in Port Charles. Drew, once seen as an ally, is now starting to look suspicious. Trina begins to question whether Drew is involved in a plot to take down her mother. Kai, despite his doubts, can't ignore that Portia may be becoming a pawn in someone else's game. As they investigate, Trina and Kai not only have to confront external dangers but also learn to trust each other through the storm. Kai's secrets from the past, his time in a covert training program, begin to be revealed, leaving Trina confused about his true nature. But instead of running away, who once fought for justice in the shadows? They gather evidence, follow leads, learn about the money, the underground connections, and the names they never expected to be involved with the world manipulating everything. Every step Trina and Kai take is a gamble, but this time, they are betting not just with their reputations or relationships, but with their very lives. If they fail, not only will Portia be in danger, but their families will crumble as well. But if they succeed, they will expose the true face of those behind everything, and maybe save Port Charles from a more dangerous plot than anything they've faced before. This journey is the greatest test of Trina and Kai's courage, intelligence, and love. And in a world where the truth is twisted, love may be the strongest weapon they have.